Alright, it's me again, Atma. Just doing my weekly whatever. Showing you guys a deck. Um this week I've decided to go with Jund Planeswalkers, which is kind of control deck. Um it's well it's basically control with the planeswalker type control, except instead of having all the good stuff like the real planeswalker decks have, like Tragic Arrogance, Planar Outburst, Languish, Radiant Flames, blue and black and white, and 5-color planeswalkers, all that crazy stuff people do. There's only 3 colors. Because there's only 3 colors, it has a couple things. It has Kozilek's Return, Radiant Flames, and Languish, so it has a lot of the board wipes. I also put some giant creatures in here to make Chandra's Ignition a thing. Chandra's Ignition is something that was used before, but it's not used as much anymore. But the one thing that I really like about Chandra's Ignition, and one of the reasons why I think it's actually better now than it was, despite the fact that people aren't just playing a whole bunch of, like, green red ramp used to just ramp, play a 10 drop, and then like Chandra's Ignition for 1,000,000, or they'd play Zendikar's Incarnate with a bunch of lands on board and Chandra's Ignition for a whole bunch. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do it for like 4 or 5. Sometimes it's bigger if Tireless Tracker gets a little out of control. But the thing here is that you can redirect this damage that it does to each opponent to planeswalkers. So when you're going against opposing planeswalker decks, Chandra's Ignition is pretty nice to be able to wipe their board, keep a guy, kill their planeswalker, attack something else. You know, like, it's pretty good dealing with planeswalker decks, which is one of the reasons I made this deck. But instead of just having a bunch of creatures and just calling it a day, I put some planeswalkers in here too, and the whole planeswalker board wipe strategy. There's actually not that many creatures. There's only 13, as you can see. So it seems weird to like have Pulse of Murasa, which gets back creatures, but it gains a 6 life, and in control sometimes you need to gain 6 life against aggro, and you need to get back your very few creatures to set up the Chandra's Ignition sometimes. So sometimes they'll kill my creatures and they'll sit in the graveyard and I'll just board wipe or whatever. I'll hold on, and then I'll Pulse of Murasa back one of my creatures and then get them with the Chandra's Ignition. Suite of Planeswalkers is just what you'd expect from Jund, which is Chandra. Ob Nixilis is a card advantage engine, and I've chosen to use only this Nissa and not the one that makes tokens. The one that makes tokens is fine, but it's more like a stall thing. This actually gets you card advantage and makes a 4/4 that you can sometimes Chandra's Ignition, and the ultimate is pretty much an instant win. One Fleshbag Marauder, because occasionally I kill everything except for Ulamog, and it's nice to have an answer. Avacyn's Judgment actually seems really shitty. You know, it'd be better to have Twin Bolt on average for this effect, because, you know, this is sorcery and we don't really have many ways to madness. In fact, the only way to madness is with the Chandra ultimate. But the thing is this deck is so controlling that sometimes if I have Avacyn's Judgment in hand and I can 0 Chandra to discard all my cards in Avacyn's Judgment, which is just, I mean, it's so fringe, it almost never happens, but just the fact that I can fireball somebody in the late game, that's why I put that in there instead. It's not really realistically going to happen. Usually it's just sorcery speed Twin Bolt, which doesn't seem good, but decks like this need as many ways to not die to aggro as possible, and sometimes Kozilek's Return, Radiant Flames, and Languish is actually not even enough. Oath of Nissa finds creatures and planeswalkers. Deathcap Cultivator is actually, most of your best games you'll have this on turn 2. Playing like a turn 3 Arlen Chord is pretty rough. Grasp of Darkness is a good way to deal with one of the most important things, which is killing man lands, because sometimes you'll board wipe and they'll just kill your planeswalker with a man land. Being able to kill all of their lumbering falls and stuff like that with Grasp of Darkness is extremely valuable. Tireless Tracker, I mean, you guys know this thing just generates value. There are better decks for it, but I mean, you just put it in any deck that has green, really. And Kalitas is something else that dies instantly, but this deck has quite a few ways of making a million zombies and just going off. This just lets us ramp a little bit if we get a little flooded, and we can trample sometimes. That's pretty much it. You know, everybody plays Greenwarden of Murasa. It's a double Eternal Witness. I'll play some games here. One thing to note about Jund decks like this is that, you know, there's like a saying. It's not really a saying, but people say in Magic, you know, what kind of deck is this? And you could sometimes say it's like a Jund. When people say it's like a Jund, it means it just has a bunch of good stuff in it. And that's pretty much what this is. It's nothing special. It's nothing tricky. It doesn't take some genius to play it, but if you play enough good stuff, you sometimes just win games. And that's what this version of Jund does. Often Avacyn used to be pretty similar. In fact, it still is. You just play a bunch of good stuff. This is actually not that great of a hand. There's a good land, but I'm skeptical of it. It's not much action. First creature is pretty far away. No planeswalkers. This is actually better, even though we're really up against it on this land situation. I'm actually not going to get the crack this Evolving Wilds. I'm going to leave that land in there and see if we draw another land, because we can't play anything on turn 2 anyway. And even if we cracked it to get a force, which we wanted, and drew a green 2-drop, it wouldn't matter. Because it's just Sylvan Advocate. Here, you know, we'd have to draw exactly Sylvan Advocate to get punished for not cracking this. So I'm not gonna crack it again. Try and increase our probability of getting a land. Alright, well, now we're gonna have to do it. I think. Because you don't always want to play Tireless Tracker, but on turn 3. But we may have, you know, too many cards or something. I just... Going against Tutelage is a little annoying when you're behind. You usually want a presence. And incidentally, like Languish and Grasp of Darkness do absolutely nothing against their deck, and Ob Nixilis arguably helps them beat us. Because he has so many colors, I'm assuming he's a what do you call it? A Brilliant Spectrum version of Mill. Just draw 4, discard 2. I think in this case we just go for the easy, don't let them have a Planeswalker play. We'll actually get to use this against something, which is nice. I don't know, I even know why they have Chandra in this deck. Seems stupid. I'm also going to crack this clue right now because they might have like a deal 2 damage thing. May as well force them to have a deal 3 damage thing. I'm not sure I like Chandra in this. Rank 31? I don't know if that means anything. I actually have made a Tutelage deck. It was okay. It won about half often. Which isn't enough. Got 4 cards with this. It's a little unfortunate there. 2 Planeswalkers already, so we're almost out of Planeswalkers. Talent of the Telepath. That's great against us. We have a million spells. Certainly got Languish or Pulse of Murasa if he wants. Yeah, Languish. Unfortunate. Normally, against most decks, I'd play Ob Nixilis, but we need a creature to keep attacking them with, so we'll do the old 5/5 and dare them to Languish us. Planar Outburst would be annoying, but not much we can do. I actually feel like we'll win this game, probably. Ooh, second Tutelage. Maybe I spoke too soon. Against Tutelage decks, you just need to attack as fast as possible. You don't always want to overextend into like an obvious board wipe, but sometimes you have to, and it's pretty unfortunate when that comes to pass. This Exquisite Firecraft's a really good way to end the game because they can't stop it from happening. So if we get them to 4, we just win. So he goes to 11 here. I assume that if we play Mina and Den, we're just going to get our guys killed by something huge. Like a planar outburst. I think I'm going to try it. Because if all he wants to do is Alchemist Vial, I want to at least get 4 damage in. And I'm going to save the Exquisite Firecraft for last, just so that if he thinks he's going to let himself go to 4, at least he doesn't know for sure that he's dead. It's better for that to be a surprise. Got all of our Planeswalkers with Mill. Chandra's Ignition is actually really good against this deck because it just hits them for a bunch out of nowhere. Alchemist Vial, crack. Nope. Ooh, that's bad. That's really bad. We will die. Okay, well, we lost this game. Probably. Gonna Ob Nixilis and draw a card just to find something that helps us not lose. Just gonna kill that. So I can't block if we actually get to attack again ever, which seems doubtful. Double Tutelage Adverse Conditions was pretty much perfect. Could not have been better for him. If he Spectrum's here, we definitely just... Oh, wow. It's just brutal. Do we have a... We need one Chandra's Ignition to happen. So we're going to draw. Desperately try and find it. Okay, so we found a Chandra's Ignition. Chandra's Ignition plus Exquisite Firecraft is not quite enough. It's close. Puts him at 2. So we're going to do it. Just put him at 7. And hope that we can attack with one of these guys. We only need to do 3 damage. We don't have any other draws because Avacyn's Judgment and Twin Bolt is not enough. We may just die right here if he has the Spectrum, though. Fevered Visions. That is dangerous. If he lets us hit him with either of these guys, we win. No longer has adverse conditions. So he cracks this. That's probably a good sign. Somehow we do 3 damage with this guy. We get there. Well, that was a tight one, but it happened. Yeah, I actually think Tutelage is fun to play. It's gotten worse lately, though, because it used to be that everyone was playing ramp and mono-colored aggro. And against mono-colored aggro, if you got your Tutelage online, you killed them very, 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 very quickly because they all have the same color, so it gets a whole bunch of triggers. And if you milled their Ulamog and stuff, then they couldn't win the game, the ramp ones. So Tutelage used to be pretty reasonable. It's gotten worse because if you mill Planeswalkers, you can't like Necromantic summons them back or anything, and they have so many of them. It's not like they're just relying on like Oblivion Sower and Ulamog to win every single game. They got a whole bunch of threats. Tireless Tracker can kill you if you're not careful, so I definitely think Tutelage has gotten worse. There's also a bunch of ways to destroy it that people play. Like the best deck right now is Abzan-based Planeswalkers, and that has access to Anguished Unmaking and stuff that this deck I'm playing right now does not have. So, you know, like the big menace right now kind of deals with Tutelage no problem. I actually like Sinister Concoction. Surprisingly good, even for this. One thing I really like about it is that it kills Reality Smasher without needing to discard a card. Because it's not a spell when you kill them. It's pretty convenient. Black-blue with a vampire is pretty weird. What rank is this guy? 35? Huh? Maybe he's got something cool brewing. Not sure. I'm half keen to just kill this thing right this second. But I can't. Oh, I can't. Oh. Alright. This is looking like a turn 5 game, meaning we're probably going to have to leave up this kill spell and make sure that one of our planeswalkers survives by dealing with their threats before, you know, we can't just jam these, probably. Well, that would die right away. If he plays nothing, I'll Grasp of Darkness this end of turn and then Arlen Cord, which will put us a turn ahead of what I expected. If not, we'll just try and Avacyn's Judgment and Grasp of Darkness and do the same thing the next turn. Hopefully we'll draw a land so we can do Judgment, Darkness, minus Ob Nixilis and just do a clean sweep and kill 3 things. That would be nice. The other fear is they may have a counterspell because they're playing blue. Pretty reasonable. Yeah, looks like a counterspell is likely, but I'm just gonna jam this Arlen Cord anyway because we can't just mess around forever. Resolves, cool. Hopefully it doesn't have a flash thing then. It certainly has 2 ways to kill this wolf, which is perfectly fine. Red. Now I don't know what to think. Oh, probably a vampire. Oh, Fire Temper, yeah. Okay, so he took care of it. That was a timely playing of a red mana, I'll tell you that. Timely indeed. We did get the land. I'm gonna start getting card advantage. Can't Fiery Temper 6 loyalty, that's for sure. This ultimate can sometimes win the game if they're gonna be this slow. Ooh. Ooh. I don't know what I want to do. I can actually kill all of them, but at what cost? I think I probably kill 2 of these and then plus Ob Nixilis and well, yeah, let's do that. It's pretty unfortunate wasting all this removal. I'm gonna plus, make him use this other sinister concoction. Then we'll, oh god, of course, I'm an idiot. God, I'm a fucking idiot. Damn it. Lesson, always draw first. Always. Always draw first. That's actually a rule. That's actually something I was aware of and did not do. You always draw first because you want to have maximum information. So I basically 2-for-1 myself instead of just Radiant Flamesing like a smart person. We are in business, though. I'm going to get the Arlen Cord with this Greenwarden because I can't get Arlen Cord with Pulse of Murasa, but I can get Sylvan Advocate with Pulse of Murasa. Despite that mistake, it looks like we're probably going to win anyway. It's just, every time I make a video, I get to talking and I have to look like an idiot at least once every single game. So that's what happened there. Is getting my prerequisite, like, horrible misplay out of the way. But we all learned something, didn't we? If you're thinking about drawing, you should probably draw. This attack makes me very curious what they drew. Probably some manner of burn spell. Probably a fiery temper of some kind or something. I don't know. I assume that my guy's gonna die. Somehow. No? That is quite surprising. Well, we're gonna draw first. Maybe we'll just play a bunch more Planeswalkers. It was worth considering, making a 4/4 and giving it haste. I didn't do it. Because I've got enough Planeswalker things to do. May as well just draw cards. Get more than these lands in my hand. And this Radiant Flames I'm not terribly keen on casting just yet. Or maybe ever at this point. Opponent's deck is pretty weird. I'm surprised he's ranked 35. There's definitely some stuff going on. Grixis madness. Not enough. Not enough stuff. Go ahead and kill that thing right away. I like getting a fleshback. Yeah, okay. That certainly was going to be a win. So what are we at? 23 minutes? I swore I wouldn't make another hour-long video. So maybe I'll just do one more. We'll see. You're kind of getting the idea, though. There's nothing really to it. You play a bunch of stuff. You reoccur a couple creatures. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You just got to remember, like, when you're going against Planeswalkers, you got to be wary of when to use your Chandra's Ignition. One thing that's nice is you're able to overextend at least a little bit because of things like Pulse of Murasa. This hand is just unbelievably slow. An untapped land would be very nice, but that'll still be slow, even if that's the case. It is a control deck, though, so... I don't want to call this like a full-on deck tech. This is just showing you a game. Thing in the Ice... I actually like it. I'm a fan of that card. It's pretty hard to make work. I use it in Is It Prowess, which is an aggro deck, which is really silly because you get an 0/4. But you draw so many cards and play so many spells in that deck that sometimes you just get a 7/8. It's also not so bad to bounce your haste guys, and it's not so bad to bounce... I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a counterspell here. Yeah. It's not so bad to bounce Abbot of Carol Keep, because then you get to like quasi draw another card on your own side. So I just make like some of the weird downsides with bouncing my own non-horrors into benefits. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's entire deck was comprised of counterspells. And by entire deck, I mean every single thing I cast from here on will be countered until he flips this thing. Well, I guess that's not enough of a threat for him to do it. I would love to have Tireless Tracker. Snatch this land, though. I'm not too worried about this flipping. I would activate this Death Touch land to kill it if I had to. This deck seems slow enough to where I'm not going to be under too much fire. If he flipped it here, it'd be pretty unfortunate. We'd take 7 and then we'd have to see what happens. Mono blue doesn't really do all that great against manlands because like Disperse says bounce non-land permanent, so we kind of get them. Not terribly keen to play into his obvious counterspell here at all. Seems pretty pointless. Just wait till I have more land. May as well kill that. If he flips this thing once again, slightly annoying, but I'm not that worried about it. It's also good to get the Twin Bolt in the graveyard, in case for whatever reason he taps out and we can Exquisite Fire. Ugh. He's got his 3 mana open again. It's pretty rough. Keep doing this thing. Yep. It's pretty good to have that. I've never played against mono blue thing in the ice ever, but we might lose because they had all the stuff they needed. Meaning counter spells and both thing in the ice. It's gonna be rough playing around these counter spells. I don't know how we're gonna do it. At 8 mana we can kill one of them. His idea for a deck's pretty nice, but I wonder what happens when he doesn't have all these flash and thing in the ice in the first 20 cards or first 15 cards even. What happens when those cards are at the bottom? Does it do anything? It's hard to say. But we're going to find out if he has anything that deals with Death Touch lands right this second. Could be like -2, -0 or some weird stuff. Nope. I'll probably Pulse of Murasa to get back that land. End of turn. Oh man. Would I ever love to board wipe? Languish would be good if it wouldn't get counterspelled, but it's definitely going to get counterspelled, so it's hard to say. I feel like this Pulse of Murasa is also likely to get counterspelled, but maybe not. Depends on how many counterspells he actually has. Jace, interesting. Definitely left that 3 mana open again. Certainly had every good card ever at the top of this deck. See if I activate this and get in for 2 and he lets that happen, I can actually Exquisite Firecraft and he can't counter it. So he can deal with that Jace if he does not block. This is where he'll go for the counterspell to save the Jace, but it actually doesn't save it because we have Spell Mastery. Oh, he knew. I guess he's played against red before. Definitely a counterspell still out there. That's definitely happening. As soon as I play something that matters. I may have to pretty soon also. It's starting to get pretty scary with these flyers. What I really wanted to be able to do is get counterspelled and Ob Nixilis in the same turn, but I could maybe Ob Nixilis and get that countered and then just play Sylvan Advocate. I don't know if that's better. Probably not. Should probably deal with this thing in the ice. Calculated dismissal? Well, I can pay for that, but he probably has another counterspell. May as well. It's a 2-for-1 if I pay. Alright. Got 2 counterspells out of the dude's hand. Now we just gotta hope he doesn't have yet another one. Because if he flips this thing, we take 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Almost dead. Certainly we'll have to Pulse of Murasa and do something next turn. Yep, left all that mana open again. Probably for this umpteenth counterspell. Alright. Let's get this counterspelled. Calculated dismissal. If I pay, am I screwed? I think I have to pay. Game is over if I pay and he has another counterspell, but how are we supposed to beat 5 counterspells exactly? On the other hand, if we don't pay and we play Pulse of Murasa, I guess it's better to just pay. Because Pulse of Murasa would get counterspelled and we'd lose regardless. So we may as well pay. Resolved. Awesome. He gets to kill the Ob Nixilis. I don't care. I just don't want to take 7. I want to note that conceptually our opponent's deck is very smart. I don't think it seems that good. All these conditional counterspells are good in the early game, but not in the late game. And he got to go off because Thing in the Ice was played, like both of them, so early, but he still has a ton of cards in his library, and none of them are Thing in the Ice. But the fact that he has all these flash guys is pretty valuable for him. That is incredible if I actually get to kill these things. Be shocked. I'm gonna play this Arlen Cord first, see if I can get that countered instead. Amazingly, yeah. I care way less. Pretty awesome that he had another counterspell. Wow, if he counters this, game's over. Or damn near, because we go to 1. I get to Pulse of Murasa, I guess that's not that bad. I think I should probably Pulse right now before he draws a counterspell. Yeah, let's do that. Don't want to not gain 6 life. When you're playing against counters like this, you always got to be considering, you know, is it worth playing your instant on their turn if they get an extra draw, or in this case he gets to draw 3 because you got to draw for turn and comparative analysis. So 3 draws to find a counter spell that would have countered Pulse of Murasa, whereas we knew he wasn't going to counter it that time. I'm going to lead with this Advocate. Horribly awry. Don't play this many counterspells, guys. I said this in exactly my last video, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 already. Don't do that. It's not worth it. I mean, if he plays Rise from the Tides, it's probably worth it. But oh god, that's so annoying. Yeah, if he has Rise from the Tides, then his deck is officially like something that I'm interested in. Also, he probably should have Brain in the Jar in this deck. I'll trade with this thing in a heartbeat. Because I can't block for a couple turns anyway. Grip of the Royal again. Ugh. It's puke worthy. I actually really hope our opponent has Rise from the Tides. That would make his deck not garbage. He's now drawn 11 more cards than us and has more health and has more cards. I'm pretty impressed. At first I thought his draw was just immaculate, but he's starting to do stuff. I'm gonna Radiant Flames. There's no point in attacking. Better to just try and kill with this 5/5. It doesn't change the clock that much. If he has a flash guy, he'll get to do 2 damage to us. A little annoying. Alright, well, if we activate both of these next turn, we can bring him to 5. That might be worth it. I don't think I'm going to play another thing. I wouldn't be surprised if he had like 3 counter spells in hand. This is why I don't really like counterspells, especially when man lands are a thing, is because you don't have to... You get to a point where you don't actually have to play into their counterspells, and then they don't have any plays anymore. And now he's just 1 swing with Woodland Wanderer away from dying. Yeah. So there it is. 38 minutes. Yeah, you know, screw this. No games, no games. Just, yeah. We'll just make a shorter video this time. Hope you enjoyed it.